Well, good evening, everyone. Hey, I'm getting a little feedback there. Welcome to Flat Out Insights. Tonight we have an unbelievable fun show that we have that was just gifted to us this week. Man, we are so excited to be back again. Um, Michael, thank you so much for doing this again, taking your time out of your schedule for Flat Out Insights.
Oh, I've been looking forward to it. This is going to be a really interesting show, and we have a guest on the show that's going to be a surprise to everyone. Well, actually, you see it in the title, so that's our
Yeah,
guest.
yeah, there it is. Yeah, so if you guys did not know, this past week, CNN um, basically told the dying horse, as we talked about last time, to get up. And boy, did they. And wow, I mean, we can't stay silent on this one. So tonight, if you guys haven't seen the video, we're going to be showing it in its entirety right here on Flat Out Insights. And so, man, we're super excited for this episode. So before we start, I want you guys to make sure you guys go out and subscribe to the channel. We have a lot of brand new shows. We got a brand new show called Sound Off. It's going to be every other Tuesday. Right now, it's focused on the Christian music industry, and we got so much fun stuff coming up on that. We've got so many great, amazing shows right here on Take on the World TV. So make sure you do like and subscribe, share our videos. We get censored pretty much by everything we do, so we can really use your help just spreading the good word. So, wow. I mean, Michael, what? I mean, before we even get into this, what were your thoughts the first time you saw this video?
The first time I saw it, I was pretty shocked because why did they do it? I mean, it was a pretty complete expose on the entire enclosed cosmology movement, and they treated it as such, and it was surprising because it was unnecessary. Thanks to their censoring, thanks to the whole COVID deception, we were slowed down dramatically. It didn't kill us because that's really not possible, but and even in the video they admitted that, but it did slow us down. So they didn't need to do this. So it's like poking the what's that term? Poking the sleeping giant.
Yeah.
So we're going to ride on it today.
Absolutely. It's like they were over there. The other term is shaking the beehive.
And right.
That's what they were doing. Yeah. And I don't think they realize what they're doing. I mean, let's be honest. We're talking about CNN. And come on, CNN has been blasted so bad this year for the fake news that they've put out. They've been busted so many times from CEOs having to step down due to, infidelity issues. I mean, come on, they've been outed by, Project Veritas for, how they put out news, and it's very, slant that they have. It's completely fake. They are the epitome of fake news. And if you guys are watching this for the first time, Donald Trump didn't create fake news. The fake news was created by the left to stop something that was called Pizzagate, what you thought, but it was really to shut down the Podesta emails, which leaked so much stuff. And so tonight we're going to expose some of that fake news and what they tried to do to this topic of biblical cosmology, flat Earth. So, man, I can't wait. But, this year has also seen the usage of the term flat earther in the regards of condemnation. And ironically, both political sides are using it. So I'm actually going to jump into a few video clips here and show you guys just what I'm talking about. Right here is kind of the video that kicked it all off, and we're gonna just play this for you guys.
More issue, the upcoming vaccine CRA. On another matter, reports this morning indicate that getting vaccinated and boosted offers significant protection against the Omicron variant. As we learn more about Omicron, it's an important moment for national leaders to double and triple down on encouraging all eligible Americans to get vaccinated and boosted as soon as possible. But as soon as today, our Republican friends are going to come to the floor to push an anti-science, anti-vaccine proposal to overturn the president's vaccine requirements for businesses with more than 100 employees. My friends, America, we are in the middle of a public health crisis. Everyone sees the damage it causes to themselves, their friends, their families, their communities. And the way to solve this is be driven by science. We've had hundreds of years of scientific advancement. It's helped us live longer and live healthier. My dad just lived till 98. That didn't happen in a vacuum, and it certainly wouldn't have happened when there were scientific advances if people said, let's not listen to them for political, ideological, or whatever reason. We cannot go back to the days when people were driven by wild theories. Some of the anti-vaxxers here in this chamber reminds me of what happened 400 years ago when people were clinging to the fact that the sun revolved around the earth. They just didn't believe science. Or 300 years ago when they were sure, or 500 years ago when they were sure the earth was flat. It's just like that. The science is here. And what does the science show?
And it gets better. It gets better from there. And
or worse, depends on how you look at it.
Right.
So people who had gotten COVID naturally. Then the people who had gotten COVID naturally.
Senator, I'd have to get back to you on that one. I'm not familiar with that study.
Well, you think you might want to be if you're going to travel the country insulting the millions of Americans, including NBA star Jonathan Isaac, who have had COVID, recovered, look at a study with 2.5 million people and say, well, you know what? It looks like my immunity is as good as a vaccine or not. And in a free country, maybe I ought to be able to make that decision. Instead, you've chosen to travel the country calling people like Jonathan Isaac and others, myself included, flat earthers. We find that very insulting, goes against the science. Are you a doctor or a medical doctor?
I've worked over 30 years on health policy.
You're not a medical doctor. Do you have a science degree? And yet you travel the country calling people flat earthers who have had COVID, looked at studies of millions of people, and made their own personal decision that their immunity they naturally acquired is sufficient. But you presume somehow to tell over 100.
He actually said he found being called a flat earther very insulting. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah. So that is the extreme left calling out the anti-science of the anti-vaccination aspect, anti-mask movement of the COVID.
Right.
It doesn't stop there. I said it works on both sides. And this last video is done by somebody probably, everybody didn't expect, because he did put out a
flat earth video.
Yeah, he put out a flat earth video, but it was obviously a joke. And so this is a comedian, JP Sears, in one of his latest videos. It's entitled What Science in the Classroom Looks Like in 20.
Welcome to science class. Today, we're going to learn the science of where babies come from. Now, back in primitive civilization, when we thought the earth was round, it was believed that only women had babies. But now, through modern advancements in human civilization, we know the earth is flat and that babies come from men. With all these men having babies, we're going to have to get men into having abortions soon, because they're just populating the planet too much. And a man's
Now, that's interesting, because he actually equated or related flat earth to the trans movement. Okay.
Yeah. So what he's doing is that, because he's very political. I think, JP Sears has woken up, with all of these deceptions that we're seeing on other topics we like to talk about.
Right. And he's definitely from the right. He's definitely not from the left.
Yes, and so he leans more on that right side, and now
Yeah.
he's using something. I could say this: being in biblical cosmology, flat Earth for as long as we have, there are no extreme left leaning people in there, and he
No.
uses this to make fun of them. So we're seeing it on both sides, very deep politically, and
Yeah.
then comedically at the same time, jabbing back and forth. And like I said, they're poking a bear and shaking that beehive that they don't need to be doing. So obviously, there's a big reason for that. And tonight we're going to expose just what CNN just did. So I think we're going to just jump into that video, and we're going to pause it. We're going to kind of do it like a reaction video, and just pick it a piece by bit as we put this out. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Wow, when you sent me this, Michael, on the day it was released, I knew this was the show that we had been looking for. And
oh, by the way, shout out to Nathan Thompson, because that's where I got the video from.
Yeah, and before I share this video, this would have been a time where back in the day we would have called somebody up on the phone, and he would have said, "Oh, heck yeah, let's go ahead and bash this video." and let's go by piece on it, and word for word, and actually show these guys what we really believe. And that inspiration for tonight's show, hey, we can't hold a candle to this guy, and we miss him very much. And so tonight, as much as we can, as bad as we are, we dedicate everything that to Rob Skiba, and because he would have been here with us tonight, we would have had him as a guest. So yeah, we miss him, and and his work will live on forever, and we will see him one day. So we're excited about that. So let's go ahead. We're going to jump into this video.
Hey all, I'm John Avalon, and this is Reality Check on the Extremist Beat. The Flat Earth Society. The name itself is a punchline.
All right, we got to stop right there.
Right there, man.
Yeah.
How many actual enclosed cosmologists or biblical cosmologists or flat earthers that that are a part of the Flat Earth Society?
Mark Sargent is the only one that I know who has
the only one I know, and he did it as a joke.
Or he did it. Well, I think he did it because he didn't know better. I think he did it.
You mean when he first started?
Yeah.
When he first got into this truth? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't know any better. Yeah, because clearly there are things on the Flat Earth Society website that none of us believe. And guys like Robbie Davidson, shout out to Robbie. I think he's in the chat. But all of those guys, for years, we fought for that. Hey, at least hear us in this regards.
Right.
They don't get the message. Let's continue.
Right? I'm talking about those truly committed conspiracy
theorists look at this.
Who still believe.
Look, okay, first of all, that image right there, okay? No one believes that. No one that regards this as truth, that knows this to be truth, believes that we're a flat disc floating in space. Okay? No one in the movement believes that. So that's another stupid thing.
Well, they do believe that on the Flat Earth Society website.
And Flat Earth Society.
Yeah,
okay.
And this is where they're getting all their misinformation from.
Right.
And again, let's continue here.
Against literally all evidence that the world is not round, but flat.
Daredevil Mad Mike Hughes is dead after he attempted to launch his homemade rocket Saturday. He eventually wanted to go into near orbit in his quest to prove his theory that the Earth is flat.
Now we could talk about Copernicus or Columbus, the arc of the sun, space travel, or transnational flights that circumnavigate the globe every day. But no, these folks would still insist that the world is flat. And that itself offers real insights, actually, into the endurance of conspiracy theories and why some people so stubbornly cling to them. That's the subject of a great new book called Off the Edge: Flat Earthers, Conspiracy
Let me
Culture.
stop you right here. Okay, now they continually call this a theory. So what does one consider a concept that is supported by empirical evidence? That's called truth. All right. And everything that we say in this show and what we've been saying since 2015, since the resurgence of this truth, we have been able to back up everything we said with absolute evidence every single time. So it is not a theory. It is true.
And why people will believe anything. The author is Kelly Weil, reporter on the extremism and internet beat at my old site, The Daily Beast, and it is great to welcome.
He just said it. I mean, come on, how much extreme leftism can you get?
Right.
Daily Beast. I mean, come on. I mean, this is the slant that they're giving us. They're giving us CNN, Daily Beast, author. I mean, come on. So you already know the very deep slant. None of these are real journalists.
Right.
They're stuck to having one ideology, and it is, you'll see so much as we go on throughout this video.
Come her to reality check. Where did the modern incarnation of this very, very old idea get started?
Modern flat earth theory really emerged around the mid-1800s. It was really one guy's fault. He was a quack doctor, a conspiracy theorist.
Okay, stop right there. Okay, so she's talking about Robotham, and she's already calling him a quack doctor. She has no idea who this guy is. She does not know his credentials. Okay, but she automatically considers him a wackadoo. So that's how these people do this.
Yeah, and when you look at Robotham, and we're going to go a little deeper in the episode a little later, but we'll explain this exact experiment, which she's referring to, which is the Bedford level experiment.
Right.
It was not the only experiment that was being done.
No.
And so we're gonna show you the very reason. So tonight's, if you're just joining us and checking us out right now, this is called CNN Lies: What Flat Earthers Really Believe. Whether you are already into this or not, at least now you will know what a flat earther actually believes.
Yeah.
And not what they are telling you we believe.
Started promoting flat earth theory based on his observations on a long straight canal, which he said looked perfectly flat, and therefore, to his eye, the rest of the world should be flat too. People wanted...
And again, let me stop right there. She clearly does not know what Robotham believed.
Right.
He didn't find these experiments. He wasn't searching out these experiments because of this. It was already based upon his biblical beliefs that we're going to spend the end of our show talking about.
Right.
But there was already a premise. He just didn't walk into look at this. Oh, the earth must be flat. This is the nonsense that they're trying to spew onto these, early biblical pioneers who were just out there defending the Bible. So you know what? This is a biblical thing. Sure. Whether you like it or not, whether you're on the side of flat earth and you're not into the Bible, this is where it starts, and this is where it ends. It starts there, it ends there, and all the other stuff in between, it can help support it, but it all starts and ends in God's word.
Yep.
A simpler answer than ideas that might have been frightening. So flat earth theory took on this central role for people who wanted to discard emerging scientific thought, and unfortunately, it's stuck around since then.
We don't think the world's flat. We know that the world is flat because it is a law, actually. It's a law of physics, a law of God, a law of nature.
Charles Johnson is the president of the International Flat Earth Research Society. Its membership contains some 2,800 people who firmly believe the Earth is indeed flat.
I remember this from when I was reporting on the extremist beat and writing Wingnuts. There are always conspiracy entrepreneurs. Usually there's a partisan racket. It's right-wing talk TV, radio, blogs, podcasts. But what are the financial incentives off the Flat Earth Society? Who's making money off this?
So the flat earth universe right now is so much bigger even than the flat earth society. The internet has really democratized conspiracy theories and made it so that anybody can start their own YouTube channel, their own
Can you pause there for a
podcast.
second?
Conspiracy.
Okay, so what they're saying is one of the main reasons we do this is because we're making a ton of money. I want my cut because I'm not getting any of this money. And in fact, I don't know any flat earther that's getting rich off of speaking the truth of this world, of what this world is. Matter of fact, the only people that I know that they've monetized their YouTube channels so that they can support making the videos, but they're not paying their bills. They're not doing any of that. I remember Jaronism, Jaron Caponella. He got mad about this because I'm not making any money. Ask my wife. We can't even pay our bills with this, but it does help keep the videos going. But other than that, no one's making a fortune off this.
Right. I mean, if you go back and look at, Rob Skiba, for example, when he was at his, when YouTube was not censoring,
Yeah.
They were able to make nothing to really to live on,
Right.
and then ultimately when it got demonetized or got throttled and videos would get deleted, that those numbers would they dropped like 75-80%
Yeah.
in the revenue that was being generated, and that was a big channel. But let alone the cost that it cost you to do this.
Yeah.
Right. She's about to talk about, that it's, very enticing, all these things she's going to talk about. For anybody to have the guts to come out and talk about this, you lose credibility. You lose credibility not only with your family, potential jobs. I mean, look, let's go back to Pastor Nate Wolf, our good friend who got fired simply for stepping foot onto my conference, and they fired him due to this topic. And he's a pastor of a church. He lost his job. This talking about this didn't make him a bunch of money. It lost him a bunch of money to live in a life that he had no money.
Right.
He lost his whole entire income. So it costs you everything. It costs you YouTube subscribers. It costs you longtime followers. It costs you a lot of things. Yes, and there's some people who make a name, your Mark Sargents, those things, who probably have, different things. Like he had an endorsement with a commercial at one point.
He wrote a book.
He wrote a book. Yeah, so people write books. How much are they making off of these books? I mean, at Robbie's conference, Mark gave out all the books to people who attended. So it's not like everybody who went there bought Mark Sargent's book. They all got it for free. So he wasn't rolling in the dough with book sales, right? Guys like Robbie Davidson puts on, all the Flat Earth national events, all the international conferences, and yet, he lost, in certain places, there was so much to it. Everybody thinks this is like, oh, just jump in, you're going to make a bunch of money.
Right.
They are making it seem like that's the case. But it just simply isn't true. Yes, people have made money. People have done that. I could tell you, me putting on a conference that we just talk about it, where I don't put on a Flat Earth conference, even though that if you Google us, that's what you'll see. That is absolutely not the truth. We lose out every single year. And that's just the honest truth. We don't, most people who are doing this, they're not doing it for the reasons that they're about to tell you.
No, I'm a speaker at Take on the World conference, a couple other conferences, and meetups. Well, at least I used to before the whole COVID deception. But I'm not paid for that. I was never paid for that.
Yeah.
Okay, I did it for the joy and the honor of speaking truth. But my wife and I had to pay for that. Okay, so we were out of money. We didn't actually make any money from this truth.
Videos are very, very lucrative online. They're so scintillating. If I see a video on YouTube with a crazy headline, something about flat Earth, even though I don't believe in flat Earth, I'm pretty tempted to click on that. So because these videos overperform on social media, they often get artificially boosted by social
they
media
blurred
sites'
them out.
algorithms. And a lot of very savvy people on YouTube, on Facebook, picked up on that and they said, okay, I'm going to make.
Oh, now he's got that smile like, oh, we got you. We know what this is about. It's a bunch of fake people who don't really believe this. They're all about trying to make money.
Right.
That's what that smirk is trying to come across to the audience. And I can tell you this, nobody's still not buying it. And guess what? Probably just same amount of people who watch you guys live are watching us live. So, because you're on CNN.
The flat Earth video because I know that's going to bring me money. So there is a whole shadow ecosystem to how people are engaging with flat Earth, not necessarily because they believe in it. Some people do. Some people are a little bit more cynical. And these people are realizing that if you make conspiracy content, you're probably going to get some profit.
That is such an important and, in retrospect, obvious point. It's the algorithms. This is yet another example of the algorithms creating a perverse incentive structure that leads to totally absurd places, promoting cults and conspiracy theories.
That's true. And to YouTube's credit, they have, in, I think 2019, they started tinkering with the algorithm to delist flat Earth videos. They realized we've got a real problem here. And now it's harder to find them. It's harder to accidentally stumble upon them. But to that end, I would say that the genie was already out of the bottle. These videos
you stop there? She's right.
And that was exactly what you said on the last show, Michael. The cat was out of the bag. You know, when they've already, you know, before they started to, you know, change that algorithm.
Yeah, I mean, she's right. They let it go for 5 whole years, which I find astonishing. Why didn't they stop us sooner? I don't think they took us seriously. They thought it was just going to fade away. It's just something silly. But it turned out not to be that, and it scared them half to death. It terrified them. And she's right. Even though they censored us, it didn't stop us at all. It didn't stop at all. So it's too little, too late.
Right. And she said it's harder to find. You know, let's be absolutely honest. It's impossible to find.
Yeah.
It's impossible to find. You know, unless if you know the channels. If you don't already know the channels, if you're not subscribed to ODD TV, if you're not over there, if you're not over in this camp, you're not over there, you're not seeing our show because we have 4,000 subscribers and nobody watches our channel. And shout out to everybody who does. So, you know, you guys.
Thank you.
Just even doing research or finding old videos that we once had, and computers crashed, and refining that stuff is almost impossible now. And you know, even alternative platforms, you know, we're on BitChute just trying to find stuff. And yes, there are things there, but the amount is virtually nothing. You know, going through, and we'll play a video from BitChute, you know, some parts of it tonight. There were 6 videos to choose from when I typed in NASA fails. And flat Earth. 6. We used to have thousands of these videos.
Millions, actually.
Well, I'm talking about at least from that perspective of that angle.
Okay.
They're probably still on YouTube somehow.
Oh yeah.
But you just can't find them.
Yeah.
And if they didn't get deleted because of something somebody said in the video, or their channel got demonetized, or they got too many strikes and YouTube kicked them off. You know, this is what is happening. So if you're not removed, you're completely shadow banned. And the question to that is why? So if you're not into flat Earth, if you're not a flat earther, and you're seeing what they're doing to Joe Rogan right now, and Dr. Malone, Peter McCullough videos, and with everybody censoring them, we're all sitting there going, okay, there's some there is some smoke over here, right? That's the old adage: when there's some smoke, there's some fire.
Mm-hmm.
They censored two things: anti-vaxxers and flat earthers.
Yeah.
If you're not asking yourself, why would they do that? If we're that stupid, if we're that moronic.
Exactly. Right. Why would they take the time, the effort, and the resources to punch us, to try to punch us out of existence? They spent a lot of time and effort on that. But why? If we're so, I mean, listen to these guys. If we're so ignorant, if we're so stupid and dumb and not worth listening to, then why bother? Okay. That's like trying to censor a bunch of cat videos you can't stand.
Right. And you're going to see later in this video, at the end, towards the end of this video, why the answer to that question is why.
Mm-hmm.
And it is because we are extremely dangerous. And let's get to that part. Let's keep watching here.
Everywhere for 5 years before they tamp down on that algorithm. So yeah, it's very hard to decouple the success of this conspiracy theory from the big tech companies that, willingly or not, made it really profitable.
When we come back, you'll hear about how to get people out of conspiracy theories and cults, including, of course, the Flat Earth Society. I get that in cults and conspiracy theories, particularly in the online era, the community is self-reinforcing, especially when people feel rejected by the rest of society for their beliefs. But what's the appeal of this particular conspiracy theory? Why flat Earth for these folks?
I think for Flat Earth, it offers a whole vision of the universe. Another theory like QAnon or chemtrails, well, that's just a little part of a conspiracy universe. It sort of fits alongside the accepted reality that most of us share. Flat Earth is almost like a religion in its totality. If you believe it, then you have a whole new worldview, and alongside that, you have a whole new set of friends and people who share your ideas. When you buy into Flat Earth, it brings you into this community.
Your reporting also shows, though, this troubling overlap between the far right and the flat earthers. Explain. How did that
Can you
work?
stop right there?
Yeah, let's go ahead and stop right there. That's a great place to stop.
Yeah. I mean, okay, they're calling us a cult, and now you see they're relating us to Nazis. Okay, let's comment on the cult thing. I love it when people call us a cult and they just throw out words just to insult, because if you're going to call us a cult, at least back it up with some evidence. This is America. You can say anything you want. That's fine. And since it is free speech, at least for now, we can rebut anything they say. But if you're going to call us a cult, back it up. What's the hierarchy? Who's the leader of this cult? Where's our headquarters? What's our religious statement? I mean, come up with some actual evidence. And they never do. So, and the Nazi thing, okay, seriously, I'm a Nazi.
Well, hold that thought right there before we get to Nazi. She just explained why flat earthers are so dangerous. Because it is the very paradigm shift that happens where everything else flows underneath it. She touches on QAnon, she touches on all these other things, like chemtrails, and chemtrails is not a conspiracy any longer.
It's not a conspiracy.
So I don't know where she's pulling that from.
Right.
Especially when they have whole conventions about it,
Right.
weather engineering conferences, I mean, come on, this is insanity. But she explained something. We talked about this in our last show. Name one person who believes the earth is flat and has taken an experimental jab in their arm.
Yep. Name one.
Name one. Name one. Name one person who believes the earth is flat who absolutely trusts their government.
Right.
You're not going to find it, right? So
No.
this is exactly the paradigm shift, is that when you're at it's like this is at the top of the list. When you believe in enclosed cosmology system, which points to a creator,
Yep.
it drastically changes your worldview all the way straight down. And this is why we are so dangerous. This is why we must be shut down. We are as equal to the anti-vaccination movement, if not ahead of that. Because the people who believe anti-vaccination, especially with COVID, they may not be fully there. They still may say, I'm just against this experimental one.
Right.
We need more testing on it before I would take it.
Right.
Somebody who believes in the flat earth, they're going, I would never touch it with a 10-foot pole. Right. And if you got it, I don't want to be around you.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because they're gonna start talking about how the shedding, they're gonna talk about all these different things, right?
Yeah.
This is why they have to do this video. Guys, this video was not released in 2015, was not released 2016, was not released 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, wasn't released in January, wasn't released in February. This was released on March 8th.
Yep.
Guys, that's how close this is to what we're seeing. And like I said, they came in purposeful to rattle that beehive and shake it. And we need to stand up for what the truth is actually, and not what these lies are preposturing. And yeah, now, I mean, look at this. They are going the route. And Mike, I don't even know if you saw this. This was when they're talking about Nazis. Yes, you're going to have your angle on what that means. But what I'm seeing is that they're actually taking this to what they always take it to, what we've seen them take it to. And this is about race.
Yeah.
That they are taking this racial.
Yeah.
They not only racial, but they are making it an extreme right ideology. And if we go back to that video of J.P. Sears, where he's making fun of the extreme left and calling them flat earthers.
Yeah.
Both sides are poking fun and deeply offended by that term. Both sides.
Right. Right. That's why I crack up when people ask, well, if you're a flat earther, are you a leftist, or are you to the far right? Actually, realizing enclosed cosmology is true doesn't go either way. It's a completely different thing. Okay. And it's more like a paradigm crusher than a paradigm shifter, because once you realize the earth is enclosed, and that means space does not exist. And that makes us very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and hold on for a second. Let's see if we can show this at the same time. Here's Debunk Flat Earth jumping into our chat room. Hey, big shout out to you. Still no working model of a flat earth. That should tell you a lot. Wow, when you have a channel named Debunk Flat Earth, you must be, I mean, clearly you must be one of those paid trolls that they're talking about. Any right sane person, why would you have to create a channel called Debunk Flat Earth? I mean, seriously. Come on. Moderators, if they get out of hand, you know what to do.
Right.
Get rid of that. Get rid of that.
Thanks for the humor, Debunk.
Yeah, right. I mean, come on. Now, if you're a real person with a real name, maybe we might take you serious and actually answer your question.
Right.
But your channel says it all.
Yeah, yeah.
But thanks for showing up. I mean, you got to. I mean, clearly. I mean, if we go back to when they were trying to censor, Tom Dunn when he was doing, LondonHasASecret.com. Every time we have Tom Dunn on a show, we'd get about 60 to 70 trolls pop into the
Wow.
the chat room.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, it's a compliment. So I mean, we haven't had it in a while. So thanks so much for being there. Yeah, you guys can take care of them. Hopefully, there's some mods in there. Yeah. So, and if there is somebody in the chat room, just keep it clean over there, guys. So I appreciate that. But yeah, let's Michael, go ahead if you want to touch based on the neo-Nazis.
Well, the whole Nazi thing as well is just as bad as the cult concept, or the cult of insult toward us. If you're going to call us a Nazi, back it up. All right. So that means, first of all, you have to prove that we have a political leaning, because flat earthers are not flat earthers because they have a political leaning. We have none. So you're going to have to prove that, and also you have to prove our political leaning is fascist. You have to prove we're fascist. Also, you're going to have to prove that we have or are capable of murdering innocent men, women, and children. And that comes to a second point. Since they can't disprove us, because we actually have all the evidence on our side, since they can't disprove us, then they call us terrorists, because that's ultimately what they're doing. So it's kind of like playground politics, really. When you do something, if you're a little child, when you do something better than a rival in the playground and they can't beat you, then they do a your mama joke, or they insult your dog or something, because they know they can't beat you, and so they just insult you. And that's basically what these small-minded people are doing.
Right. And look at the screen. What they're doing right here is they're taking an isolated incident, and they're trying to paint this so that anybody who looks into this goes, oh my gosh, it's associated with racism, it's associated with white supremacy. My goodness. I mean, that was, clearly the biggest shocking part of this video is what they were trying to do.
Right.
But then again,
come on, people. Do I look like a Nazi? Seriously? Come on. I mean, it's just hilarious. That's as funny as when they called Ben Shapiro a Nazi. That cracked me up.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's move forward with this fun video.
So there's no inherent reason there should be so many flat Earth Nazis, and yet there are a lot of flat Earth Nazis.
A lot of them, right? I mean, yeah. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, come on, sweetheart. Give me some numbers here. Okay, she's supposed to be a journalist, right? So far, her research acumen is pathetic. Give me some detail here.
Flat Earth Nazis?
Yeah. We're talking fringe of the fringe. I think conspiracy theories are very powerful in political extremist movements, because they are looking for alternative explanations. They're looking for often scapegoats for why they feel disempowered, why they feel angry.
I got to say, I didn't see flat Earth Nazis coming. I didn't. I want to end this on a hopeful note, as I am wont to do, and look at some useful solutions, particularly when you've interviewed folks who've left the Flat Earth Society. What was it that ultimately convinced them? Because it really could offer folks some tips about getting people out of cults overall, and God knows we need that right now.
One thing that came up again and again, talking to ex-flat earthers and also people who help others leave cults, was that you have to do it with empathy. I know sometimes that can be really hard because flat earth seems like an easy punchline, or sometimes it can be hard because someone believes in a conspiracy theory that's morally reprehensible to you, like QAnon is to me. But offering someone empathetic conversation about why they believe what they do and why those beliefs might be false, and then giving them a safe place to land when they exit the conspiracy theory. I've spoken to so many conspiracy theorists who are worried about what happens when they try to go back to the friends and family they alienated. Will those people make fun of them? Will they point and laugh and say you were wrong? And I think the most helpful thing that you can do is welcome people back and bring them back to reality gently. Give them a safe landing place.
Such an important point. And as you say, it's completely consistent with what we've learned from talking to people who've left cults, from people who focus on this. the empathy, the understanding, the safe landing, the safe harbor, if you will.
Before this video ends, I mean,
Flat Earth intervention groups,
well,
really?
not only this is what they're actually really speaking to, which is so comical, is they're actually speaking to their own listeners here.
Right.
This whole thing is, if you are a CNN listener, everything we said, just replace their word flat earther for CNN listener. And you know what? We should welcome you guys back into reality when you one day wake up, when you actually realize what's going on in the world, and all the ideologies that are being pumped out of what CNN is trying to do, and the lies that they continue to push and get away with them, and because people allow them to. And my goodness, I mean, oh wow, let's just finish it and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Kelly Weil, congrats on the book. It's great to see you. It's great to have you on Reality Check. Be well.
Thank you, John.
Once again, they show their lack of research skills because they commented on Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving came out as a strong flat earther, and then he allegedly recanted. But if you look at after his supposed a reversal, he made other videos where he actually went back and said, yeah, it's real. Now Kyrie Irving had to do that because he had a bunch of endorsements, and his staff was getting out at him. He had to deal with all that pressure that comes from realizing the earth is flat. You get a lot of pressure from that, and Kyrie Irving actually has a lot to lose. So I get where he's coming from. But he actually did, on other videos, he actually did start speaking on the flat earth as if he never recanted at all.
Well, look, I mean, if you know anything about Kyrie Irving, and most people don't, we know him as the guy who's not able to play in the Barclays Center in New York because he's unvaccinated, and yet right now, New York City has uplifted the vaccination cards for theater, for going out to eat. They've lifted it for almost everything, and yet somehow it doesn't apply to Kyrie Irving. So yes, we know, so he can't still play home games, while visiting players can come into the Barclays Center and they can play.
Wow.
You can, if you're unvaccinated right now, me and Michael, we can go drive to New York, and probably they have places open 24 hours, and we can go catch a bite. It's probably about a 7 hour drive from us. Let's go. Let's do it. We don't have to, if that place doesn't require it, because individual places can do it, we can go there. He can't play there. So that's what we kind of know of him right now. Obviously, we knew of him from Flat Earth, but if you actually know his faith, he's Islamic.
Mm-hmm.
And for a simple fact that the Quran happens to be a flat earth book. Yeah. So, he's not going to give up on his belief, because it's probably most likely, and I'm just speaking for him because I don't really know, but I can show you and probably believe that his belief system is based upon his religious belief system, which is the very reason that it's cemented. And so publicly, he can recant it. He can just not talk about it. He can just say, hey, I offended a lot of people. I did, he did a lot of words to say, I don't necessarily, I'm absolving myself of it, but enough. He said enough just to be able to end the conversation, so no longer people would talk about it.
Yeah.
And yet, then again, Michael, I mean, we've been in this for a long time. How many people do you know who have recanted their beliefs, especially if they're Bible believers,
right,
and walked away from enclosed cosmology and returned back to the globe?
We've had the honor of meeting, both you and I have had the honor of meeting hundreds, if not thousands. I know of not one person that has turned back to the delusion of heliocentrism. Not one. The flat Earth has an incredible retention rate, and that's another thing that scares our opponents.
And it goes right back to why they're so dangerous, because this is,
Right.
when you see the things that we're going to show you, that we're going to go through, and the rest of the show, what we're going to dedicate to is some really basic, simple facts of what flat earthers actually believe.
Yep.
And we're going to show you some real things. What causes somebody to actually say, I don't trust that. I don't believe that. NASA's full of crap. I can't buy this anymore.
Right.
And it may not lead them to flat Earth. It just may lead them to say, I don't see what I used to see. I don't blindly wear my NASA T-shirt and think they're great.
Right.
And I think for a lot of people, I mean, look, let's look at Joe Rogan, for example. And we talked about him on the last show, and we talked about this specifically. Joe Rogan used to question the moon landing. When he got so much heat, he completely recanted.
Mm-hmm.
Had guests like Neil deGrasse Tyson, astronauts on his show, and he was he was able to recant, the moon landing.
Oh, by the way, not one flat earther believes in the moon landing. Not one. None of them.
There might be somebody weird out there. Look, I will say that, we met a good, nice guy at FEIC 19.
Okay.
And really super nice guy. You remember him? And
yes.
And he sent us some great information.
Yeah.
He helped. He was very geocentric man. He is not conspiratorial at all. He's been a flat earther since the 90s. And so he's not into 9/11 conspiracy. He's not into, major conspiracies out there, but happens to believe and know that the earth is flat. Yep. So, when we say all, we can't really paint a brush that it's all. It's the vast majority. So, who don't believe some of these things. He was super interesting, but he is a needle in a haystack. Let's put it that way. And they are afraid of that, because this is what changes that paradigm shift. So let's take it back, Michael. Let's go back to, some of the things that they talked about, and let's talk about some stuff. Right here is that Bedford level experiment by Samuel Rowbotham. And this is the thing that they called the quack doctor, and what he did, where, here he is in the canal, and he had, one person inside of the boat, one person observing at a 6-foot distance. And they were able to go 6 miles.
Yep.
And it detected no curvature of the earth. And that's at 6 miles.
Right.
And that's quite a bit of curvature that is absolutely missing, where you should not be able to see that. So they say this experiment, this debunked experiment, is the basis for all flat earthers. Mm-hmm. So we see this experiment, we're like, oh my gosh, Earth is flat. Done. Case over. Why don't you go and show? Let's pull up that video of those late 1800 men, and if you guys don't know, the men of the late 1800s, they were a group of people like me and Michael, but much smarter than me. Not as much as Michael, because he's a pretty smart guy. But these men were theologians. They were doctors. They were they were men of not only science, but of the scriptures as well. And so these men that were putting out this material, they were all Bible believers. and they were fighting for the Bible. That's what they were fighting for, what the Bible had to say. They weren't fighting to just prove a flat earth model.
Mm-hmm.
They were fighting for the word of God. And that is so vastly important to understand. And look, that new wave didn't just spawn the Bedford level experiment. Michael, if you got that video pulled up, there were so many different books, so many different experiments. They were experimenting. They were doing these curvature tests with lighthouses and seeing things, as they're reporting in their books, 40 miles away. And so here are some of the books.
And this is a synopsis of the history of flat Earth.
Of course, every culture believed it up until the globe, and then all of a sudden, here
are all the maps. I hear all the books.
Yeah, and let's take a look at some of these books. These books were breaking this stuff down, and you can find a lot of these books still online. And even Rob Skiba has some of these books available over at testingtheglobe.com. But these books were, are not even the reason that people become flat earthers. They are the things that we discover after the fact.
Yeah, right.
Hey, wait a minute. Did you know that people were talking about the exact same things in the late 1800s?
Right.
And it's funny, they bring that first. We're actually going to talk about the thing that causes modern day flat earthers that nobody addresses to become flat earth. And, here are, some amazing, books that, if you read them, they are absolutely game changers. And if you see that man in the middle, Michael, why don't you talk about that guy?
Can you?
Yeah, let me get back.
Yeah, right there. Right. John Edward Quinlan. What year was that in? I can't quite see that book. Hold on a second. I actually have the book here as a JPEG. Oh, there he is. Okay. Yeah, he wrote his book in, I do not have the year on the cover, but he was one of the, this goes to show you that the flat earth truth was everywhere, okay? Every culture, every race. It was not tied down to...
Wait a minute, hold on. It wasn't led by a group of neo-Nazis?
No, not even close, It was not just tied to a group of small elite wackadoos, okay? These were people from all over different backgrounds, and the Earth Aplane shows that truth, okay? John Edward Quinlan was just another person. He just happened to be a black man that was writing the books that these other men were writing. So...
Yeah, and how funny is that here's a man, John Edward Quinlan, and we just passed the month of February, known as Black History Month.
Right.
He ain't ever mentioned.
Oh, no.
He's not talked about.
Never will be either.
He's not talked about. He's an
Unless
embarrassment.
we do it.
He's an embarrassment. Right?
Yep.
He's an embarrassment, and yet, the stuff that is inside of his books should make everyone question what we currently see. Now, even without those things, and yet his work is being labeled neo-Nazi. Let's get into its perspective.
Right.
Today, what he is referred to is part of the neo-Nazi movement. Just let that sink in.
Yeah.
This is what these people do. So that was not even close to, that was starting the gate of how we even got here, right? So
Right.
those are some of the very early steps. And, we've done a really in-depth shows on, the history of flat earth, taking it all the way back, from century to century, and what it's looked like and how things have changed from, being completely geocentric flat earth to this heliocentric model that we call science today, and anything but, nothing that can be proven. If you're just, I'll say this: if you're just starting, I say this all the time, look into geocentric. That is the first place you start. You
Yep.
don't even start globe versus flat Earth. You start with geocentric versus heliocentric, and see what you come up with. And Michael, if you can go ahead and stop your screen share there. But yeah, and we're going to pull up. Let's pull up the other video. So with that Bedford level experiment, we could talk about all the lighthouses, all those different things that we've done. All the different things that they've done through the 1800s, all the different experiments. Michael's got an experiment that he's done, and so this is one of the early starts. We're going to pull up your level experiment over flat water.
Okay.
You can pull that one up.
I'll do that now. And curvature.
Stop screen sharing the flat Earth reality video.
I did.
No problem. Go ahead, pull up the other one.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. No, I didn't. Here we go. Okay, that's done.
Perfect.
All right. And curvature. And, oops. Wrong one. Yeah, curvature. And here we go. Now you see it. Now you're done. Okay, now basically what that showed is that you could not see the bolts over the horizon. You could not see the bolts over the horizon with the naked eye. But once I zoomed in with the camera, then you could see it. Okay. Now, according to heliocentric science, that's impossible. Now, most people would say that's an illusion. All right. What you're seeing there is refraction due to various conditions of temperature differentials and all that stuff. If that were an actual refraction, that sailboat and that small boat in the distance would be wavy and distorted, but they're quite sharp. All right.
Well, Michael, let's zoom back at that and make sure everybody sees those people enjoying the water. If we can zoom right in on them, when we zoom right in on them, all right, you ready?
Yep.
There they happen to be, right there.
Mm-hmm.
You see them floating right there.
Yep. You see those two people floating on the floaters. Yep.
So these people are barely what? A foot off of the water, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Maybe 2 feet off of the water.
Right.
So again, and we can see them down to their floating device.
Yep. You're not supposed to see that.
So we're not seeing any type of refraction. We're not seeing anything. How many miles do you believe this to be out, Michael? It's at least as far as the Bedford level, 6 miles out.
Oh, more than that. Definitely more than the Bedford level. So it had to be around 10 miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they should be blocked by hundreds of feet at this point of Earth curvature.
Right.
But again, we know that water is always level. It is a proven scientific fact. So that's the next progression, right? Let's talk about that.
Yep.
is what flat earthers believe is science, is that we believe water is level.
Yep. Always.
Come on, how basic is this, right? Water is absolutely level.
Yep.
So that first experiment that you did, was that done to prove flat earthers wrong? Were you doing that to prove flat earthers wrong at the time, or to solidify what you had already seen?
No, I was already concrete on the truth of enclosed cosmology. I was just doing it to show evidence of it. And the curvature experiment is such a simple experiment to do. You just need a camera with a decent zoom and a nice clear day. And I do what I call horizon hunting, where I just take a camera and then pan and then zoom in to see what I could get. I shouldn't be able to do that. If heliocentrism is actually true, if the Earth is actually a globe, then that means my camera can shoot around the curve. Okay, wow, it's a magical camera.
And that was done with the P900, right?
That was done with the P900, yeah, and I was at 2,000 millimeter.
Yeah.
Equivalent 2,000 millimeter.
Yeah, and that was done 2015.
Yep. No, that was 2015. Yeah.
2015. Yeah. Do you have another one of those, Michael, we can show?
I do. Let me cut this one, and the other one gets a little more technical because you'll actually hear me in the background.
Awesome.
Hold on a second.
So, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying, flat out insights without major technical difficulties. And for once, every year that we've been on, we've always had issues. So we're going to go ahead and add this to the stream.
2,000 millimeter. .50 millimeter. The reason why I mention the focal length of the lens that I'm using is actually important, because the 2,000 millimeter is the long focal length. All right, that's where I can zoom in on the boat. But when I zoom back out again, I mention, okay, as soon as I stop zooming out, I say 50 millimeter. 50 millimeter equates to the proportion that the eye sees. Okay, and if you want this experiment to be accurate, it's best that when you're zooming back out to a wider focal length, it's best that you stop at 50, because 50 is what the human eye sees. If you stop at, like the P900 will stop at 24 millimeter, that's a wider angle. Well, it's not that accurate when you do that, because if it's a wider angle, it automatically makes things smaller in the scene. So you can deal with the trolls and the people that say you don't know how to use your camera. Stop at the 50 millimeter, okay? And that's just a better way of doing the experiment. It's more accurate.
And again, how far do you think this is miles out?
It's about the same distance as the last one, about 10 miles, and which is impossible, but it's about 10 miles.
And that was also done with the P900 rather than the P1000, correct?
Right.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, again, that's probably not even the very first thing people see when they come into flat Earth.
Right.
I think it starts here, the thing that they never address. And we're gonna attempt to show a video here, and we're gonna laugh with you guys for a little bit. So let me go ahead and get this set up for you guys. Give me one moment.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll be right back.
All right. That is Michael's bathroom break, I think. Just kidding. All right, let's go ahead and pull this up.
On it and get cleaning my teeth. So I'm going to suck the water off it, because where else would it go? Nice wet toothbrush. Grab some toothpaste. We just use standard toothpaste in space. Squeeze a little on, not too much, because you're going to have to clean it up later. Okay, so there's my toothpaste on my toothbrush. It's wet. It's ready to go. It's loaded. Brush my teeth just like normal. Get them all, especially the ones in the back. You should brush your teeth for about as long as you can sing happy birthday. That should be long enough. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I've got a mouthful of toothpaste stuff, I got a dirty toothbrush.
So let's go ahead and stop right there, Michael. This is a great example of
really bad compositing. It's horrible. And you can tell it's a multi-layered video because the distortions are in the people, but you don't see it in the background. That means the background is a separate layer. When you shoot an actual video, it's flat. Okay, a video is a single layer image. All right, there's no multi-layers going on there. What you're seeing here is an actual created video image, and that's why, and it's a very sloppy one too. That's why you see all the distortions.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think for me, this was my first flight, and so.
Again, these are the very first things that a lot of people see before they, that even explore the idea that, oh my gosh, what are they hiding? What are they doing? They're clearly doing something that's just not adding up. If anybody with like your professional expertise, Michael, who have been working in video, photography, film, for as long as you have, for over 30 years, you see these things and you cringe. If you put out work like this, you would absolutely cringe.
I couldn't make a living, actually. Even my students can do better than this. I mean, even the design of the space station is absolutely pathetic. Why would you be in the most dangerous environment known to man, and you have all these wires and cables sticking out? You can snag that stuff easily. I mean, it's just so many things wrong with this. I mean, we could do an entire 2-hour show on what's wrong with the ISS.
Yeah, I mean, but in fairness to their, because obviously they got they've got, they're spending, millions and millions and millions of dollars a day budget wise, and yet. They have quality people. A lot of times these things were done live. And so the challenge to doing these things live is you can be victim to these glitches, and it's outside of their control.
You know what? That's true. But, these guys are getting over $60 million a day. And so I hear what you're saying, but I'm not buying it, because they could do a whole lot better with a budget like that. I mean, come on.
Oh, for sure. Well,
okay.
Let's keep going and laughing a little bit more. Hopefully you guys are enjoying some of these in the chat room. And if it was if it was all shot in the same place or was
Right.
not done on video layering,
Right.
all the video would do that, not one part of it.
Well, actually, a good example is what Chris and I are doing right now. I'm shooting my video as a single video clip, and my background is the same as my foreground. If I was going to glitch, you would actually see it in the background as well. Whereas Chris is actually shooting his video on a green screen. Obviously, his video is far superior to NASA. Okay, so Chris, you must have some serious cash. And
I think this thing was $40.
And, and if you look at Chris's video, his all around his body is very crisp, it's very sharp. Okay, that's called a good key. All right. He also has a nice choke on his image as well. You don't see any green on Chris. So that means the area does not have spill. Okay, that's what's called spill. So it does not have the green.
They can't see us now, right now, anyway. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, next time they can say that you can do that. But that's a good example of what a good green screen video looks like. And for some reason, they seem to have a lot of trouble with it. It's very weird. What you're seeing here is wire removal. So the astronaut is on wires and they're able to take the wires out. It's another way of masking. But there's actually tools just for that called wire removers. So that's not hard.
He was playing with the water with the paddles, the hydro repellent paddles. So he was bouncing the glob of water between the two paddles, and one of the community noticed that his eyes were not following the freaking water. They were jumping into places that he had it for a little bit, and then after that, his eyes were completely out of sync with the water droplet.
But when those guys were playing ping pong back and forth with the water, you'll notice that the girl always is looking above the camera. And the reason why is because they're looking at the CGI feed. You know, they need to see where the item is that they're playing ping pong with because it's not right in front of them. So once I saw Helmick's video, I really, it opened my eyes even more to, okay, because every time I've watched those astronauts, they appear to be watching a monitor above the camera, which, okay, I could see doing that. But on the other hand, if you're just up in space giving an interview or playing ping pong or whatever you're doing, then you would have no reason to look at a monitor. It doesn't matter. The camera's on you, you know that, so it doesn't matter what you look like. You shouldn't care about that, but they're always very concerned with that monitor. Well, that tells me why. It's when they're using props.
And if you saw there too, the paddle glitched out while he didn't glitch behind him.
Yep. Yeah, what's he looking up there for? That's hilarious. This is one of my favorites. Something's tugging on her. That's hilarious. That is terrible wire work. These guys will get fired in Hollywood.
And he's almost able to balance on the top of that rail.
Yeah.
All you have to do is turn yourself and your reference changes. The reason I'm bringing that up is because this is where 4 out of 6 of us sleep. But you can sleep in any orientation. I have it feeling like I'm standing up right now, but like you saw, I'm on the floor. But it doesn't matter if I turn over and I sleep upside down. I don't have any sensation in my head that tells me that I'm upside down. So I don't have any sensation in my head that tells me that I'm upside down. So So much for not having any sensation.
Right.
But we're supposed to ignore this, right? Nothing to see here. We don't know what we're talking about.
And guys, we're going to stop the video here in a second here, and let's just go back to stop sharing the screen, and That was a very small portion. Some of those I
Oh,
hope
yeah.
you guys didn't see. I tried to find some things that weren't super classic because there's so, oh my goodness, there's so many classic ones. From the pizza box, the flap door on the outside of the
Oh,
ISS.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, to to the dropping of the nut or whatever they dropped, you know, the bolt.
And the fact there are no hatches. Where are
Yes.
the hatches?
Yeah, right.
Okay. If you see a submarine, there's a hatch per section.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, and that's a safety measure, a very important safety measure. Yet, in the most dangerous environment known to man, there are no hatches, and they're walking and they're flying around or floating around in khakis and socks. That's insane.
Right. And so these are some of the things that I will tell you: no creation ministry, no NASA, really no fanboys. You don't see the NASA fanboys. They want to talk about all the other things. They want to talk about all their proofs, ships over the horizon. They want to give you mathematical equation after mathematical equation.
Right.
And their math is right. Terrible premise, bad premise, right?
Right.
So the next thing I think we should jump into. So those are some of the things that nobody addresses. And so creation ministries, if you want to debunk flat Earth, I'm going to tell you how you do it. You start by debunking that stuff. You go through endless hours. You hire video guys that are unbiased, prove they're unbiased. Hire them to show that everything that they're seeing, that we are seeing, that they're seeing is absolutely truth, that NASA did not ever have any mistakes. They're not shooting on wires, green screens, and harnesses. Prove that to us first. Then we can discuss all the other things. If you guys want to do documentaries, you want to do seminars and presentations, start there. Because that's what first drove us in to say, hey, something's not right. So if you want to say, hey, we went too deep down the rabbit hole, you start at the very tip of the rabbit hole before you start to go debunk everything else. And if you're a biblical ministry, if you're a creation ministry, and you're going to not do that, but you're going to try to force in Isaiah 40:22 as being the only literal proof in the Word of God that the earth is a globe.
Right.
I'm talking to you, Ken Ham and the Ark, because that's the only proof you put in there. And then you put secularist. You put the obelisk. You put the two obelisk as an absolute proof on one of your panels when somebody goes to the Ark, why we know the earth is a globe, and one Bible verse. And nobody's questioning this stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
Even you do a terrible job, and yet you have money backing, and you're trying to stand on the Word of God. Please do better. If
Please do. I mean, I would like to see evidence of the ever expanding infinite cosmos in Scripture. Okay, show us that. I've been asking that for years, and no one has ever been able to do it.
Yeah, and before you go there, you know, the classic, and I'll say this: if you are a strong goal believer, so again, now let's go back to looking at the video that we watched earlier in the show. CNN lies. So now we're going to get to talk to Globe people, because they talked to us and they told us we need to come out of our cult. You know, we could be welcomed back in, you know, very smoothly, you know, when we give this up and we try to return back to normality. When we're actually having discussion with you and you guys want to engage in a flat earth globe discussion, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. When we're talking, don't jump to another subject. And then when we answer that question, don't jump to another one. Because that's all these things are. You know, when we discuss with Globers, and you are so bent on telling us how wrong we are, all you do is lead us from one question to another, to another, to another, to another. Well, what about this? What about that? Well, what about this? Stop doing that, and actually let's have a discussion.
That's
Yet I don't know if that's something they can actually do.
No.
And so Creation Ministries, other people, everybody does it. If you are defending the globe, whether it be biblically, scientifically, stick to your topic and stick to it. Don't jump from this to that to this to that. And we've all been there. I mean, people in chat back me up because this is how it is. We've been doing this for a while. I've seen it happen for decades in regards of geocentricity. How when somebody was heliocentric, a geocentric person would talk like our teacher did, and that person would just rattle to go to the next thing, deflect what they say, go to the next thing, because they can't ever answer their questions, or they can't, come up with something smart enough as a rebuttal. And so, so if you actually want to engage in bringing us back to normality and telling us how wrong we are, or telling you how to do it, first you're going to need to debunk NASA and actually prove what NASA's doing is correct. So please do that. And then when you're coming at us, when we talk, listen, and then try to intelligently tell us how we're wrong before you move on to something else. If we're going to tell you about NASA videos, don't now start talking to us about ships over the horizon. When we start talking about ships over the horizon, now don't go over and jump about, pendulums prove the spin of the earth. That's exactly what have you? And then when we start talking about that, have you not seen the sun? Have you not seen the moon? Then when we start talking about the sun and the moon, you want to jump to the next thing.
Right.
I'm giving you guys a playbook on how to bring us out of this cult, and yet you would not be intelligent enough, because I'm sorry, you're not working with anything that has any true common sense behind it.
Right.
Other than pictures that are fake and videos that are fake.
Right. And constrained math, which means they create a mathematical equation within a specific construct. So within that construct, the math that they come up with works great, okay? But once it meets reality, it falls apart. Case in point, I found this equation online that illustrates the time dilation that occurs when Superman flies around the Earth at light speed. Okay, now the equation itself worked within the construct of the equation. The problem is, once it met reality, meaning Superman does not exist, okay, then it falls apart. And so science does that all the time. And speaking of science, I just want to show a visual aid here, okay? I had to run and get this. I forgot which camera bag I put it in. This is the P900, okay? So this is the P900, and this is a very common piece of equipment for a flat earther because of its really long focal length. Okay, it goes from 24 millimeter to 2000 millimeter. It's really sharp, and it's relatively easy to use, yet it still has a ton of really cool equipment on there to give you some really excellent professional shots. Okay, then you have the P1000. Okay, so you see both cameras. All right, you see the difference. The P1000 is a lot bigger. It has a 3000 millimeter lens, and it's basically a smoother upgrade, okay, from the P900. So this is a very common camera with us, and it has enabled us to basically give NASA a hard time, which is really fun. So this is the cameras that we use to zoom in on single stars. These cameras are so powerful, they can zoom in on one star. When's the last time you've seen NASA zoom in on one star? Just one, all right? We can do that from our front yard, okay? I mean, I have videos I can show you now where I use these cameras to focus on literally one star. So this is just to show you, this is the equipment that we use to shoot all those videos that you see out there. Oh, by the way, you can get these from Best Buy. Okay, it's that easy to get.
Yeah. So this is a great opportunity. Let's go right into so what they're doing up in, let's say space is, let's pretend we still believe in space.
Okay.
Or space as we're told. Because I think, that's one of the big misconceptions. When we say things like space is fake, and so when an average globe person hears that we think that sun, moon, and stars don't exist, right? That's that common
Right.
ideology that comes with saying something like that. And I'll credit somebody who's ignorant, they'll think that.
Sure.
So we actually believe that stuff because we're not idiots. We can see with our own eyes.
Right.
They are inside of an enclosed system.
Right.
And so, Michael, I think this is the biggest thing. In that video, it talked about circumnavigation of planes. It talked about a lot of things. But I think the biggest thing is talking about from our point, it's actually deconstructing the idea of space. So, you've got a great video. Let's start there. And one of their most, famous things, claim to fame, besides, what we're seeing with the ISS, where we just showed the ISS and just 10 minutes of clips, which we can actually show you hours and hours of clips where all of those things of their fails are happening. Yet they're very hard to find now because, if that was on YouTube, you would never find it because it would never pull up, even if it was allowed on there.
Right.
So let's go ahead and pull up their one of their biggest claim to fame, which is the Hubble telescope. And one thing that you have done, and let's go ahead and pull that up, and then let's have you explain the Hubble telescope and what you see, what you have seen, and what you believe the Hubble telescope to actually even be.
Okay. I put it up. Do you see it?
Let's go ahead and add it to the stream. Yes, there it is.
Okay. So what we're looking at here is a video straight from the NASA website, and it is the Hubble telescope zooming into the cosmos and going through various constellations. It's zooming through allegedly trillions of light years, and as you can see, it's zooming in on this cluster of galaxies, and it stops there. Okay, so what I did was I edited the video.
Well, let's stop it there. So that's what everybody's seen. So let's explain it. Okay. That is what the average person sees, because that's the real video that they've leaked, that NASA put out.
Right.
Because this is an official NASA video.
Yep.
And so now the kids, the NASA fanboys are sitting there, and all the science fiction fans who, which you are absolutely going bonkers of, oh my goodness, look at how vast space is. Look at these, look at all these different galaxies, look at all these things, giving kids their future hope, because one day they're going to grow up to be an astronaut. So let's go ahead and shatter some lives right now.
Okay, so now we're seeing the video start up again. If you notice, I changed color levels and increase some contrast. Look at the square that you see there is zooming into. So you see some clear defined edges there. So basically what they did was they took some high resolution images, and they did basically one of two things. They either took these, they could have been JPEGs, actually JPEGs or PNGs, just single still images. They set them up on a timeline in an editing program, and they're simply enlarging the images toward the viewer. Or they put it on a 3D layer, and they have a virtual camera zooming in on each image as they get closer to the constellation they're trying to get to. If you notice those defined edges, you keep seeing those as it zooms in. It's zooming in more all throughout all this giant cluster of stars. Look at that. Look at that. Now, if that was an actual single image, you would not see little squares, okay? You would not see those defined edges there, all right? That means they're simple, small images. Well, actually, they're large images, and they're zooming in on them and making them larger. It it approximates zooming in, kind of like the cameras I just showed you. And by the way, I didn't know Hubble was a zoom lens. I didn't know it had multiple focal lengths. So that's a new one on me. But that's what we're seeing here. It's a fake. It's a fake that you can do with iMovie, Movie Maker. You can do with any inexpensive program. Where they get the pictures of the stars? They could have just pointed up and shot some pictures of the stars that's actually up there, or they could simply illustrate this. That's not hard to do.
And, so let's stop right here. So this is, let's zoom in. This is what they're the kids in the classroom are seeing. Okay, this is what the kids in the classroom are seeing.
Right.
This is both political sides. And we're fighting for truth in the classrooms. Will these politicians be so brave enough to say, this is fake? We're not going to show this. We're not going to talk about this crap. Right. Hey, big kudos to Candace Owens, who came out and says, hey, I believe the moon landing is a complete hoax.
Yeah.
She had the guts to come out and do that at the same time she was talking about, the dangers of all vaccinations.
Right.
You won't see, hey, guys that we think are good, in some conservative manners. Look, I mean, when it comes to the political scene, I think, we said this on the last show. I don't mind saying it again. We are conservative in our values because the Bible is a conservative book. Okay. Conservative values that are biblical are things that we stand on, the principles. Right. Our allegiance is not to, political parties. Obviously we believe there is a political party that is very anti biblical values. But there is another party that claims have conservative values when they don't actually have any biblical morality behind them as well. So look, we stand for conservative values. And that doesn't make us what is deemed in the world a conservative. But we believe in biblical principles. And so the challenge is this kind of stuff. This stuff must leave the classroom altogether. Look, let's go back at the Hinkle map, which is still shown in some books and some things still to this day. And the Hinkle map, the chart, the Hinkle chart, was that chart was where, it proved evolution from the embryonic stage of life and how all embryos were the exact same, and thus proving evolution. This was completely shown and proven to be false.
Right.
And so a lot of classrooms have pulled it out because showing it is a lie of manipulation. What we are seeing right here is a lie of manipulation. Mm-hmm. These things are a lie that must also be removed. And, if you're a parent out there and you're like, hey, you know what, I still, I might see this, I see these lies, and you're not telling your kids, they're going to fall victim to this stuff. They're going to get indoctrinated if we don't actually step up and actually show these kids what is passing as truths. That is not real. None of what we have just showed you is real. This Hubble telescope video is not real.
No.
It's as fake as that Hinkle chart. And yet creation ministries are sitting there telling you, you got Kent Hovind and all of these guys telling you how fake, the Hinkle chart is. And you got all these riled up creationist Christians riled up against all of this. Now we're showing you something else that is fake. And if you put this into your kid's mind and you continue to prostrate this crap, you're just as guilty as showing them that Hinkle chart.
Yep.
And if we don't stop this, we need to teach our kids truth. So if the globe is true, prove it. Don't prove it with this crap any longer.
do not be complicit in the crime of deception that we've been subjected to since childhood. Read the Bible. I mean, actually read it literally. The best way to read scripture, the best way to read the word of the living God is literally. Now, I know when you say that to a lot of pastors, they look at you like you're insane. I actually had a pastor call me a moron because I read the Bible literally. Yet when you read it literally, then it opens up and you start to see all of this. I mean, Genesis 1 would tell you automatically that we live in an enclosed world. Okay, so read it properly and then your eyes will be opened.
Yeah, so let's continue. Let's just show the next step that you wanted to show in regards of spacesuits. Because obviously I thought that was super fun. So let's go ahead and show that.
Okay, let me set that up. Let's see.
And why don't you talk a little bit about what they teach us about space and why their conditions in space are completely bogus.
Okay, space is supposed to be the most rigorous environment known to man. It's limitless vacuum that's full of debris moving at ballistic speeds, radiation, and the lack of pressure. The lack of pressure in space is actually what I want to discuss right now. So I'm going to show, let's see, share screen, and there we go. Okay, you see that? Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Hold on. I have to actually open it up. Wait a minute. Let me get rid of this, remove, and then I'm going to, hold on. I have to open up. Yeah. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay. And okay, so we have here a traditional spacesuit. Now, if you notice, a spacesuit is basically made of cloth and little pieces of metal.
Can you make that full screen, Michael?
Pardon me?
Can you make that full screen?
Oh, yeah. You got it?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. So the visor is made of some type of tempered glass and allegedly, and the spacesuit is basically made of 8 layers of cloth, 8 to 12 layers of cloth. So, and it's all stitched together. All right. So let's look at those layers. So you see you have the various layers, nylon, water resistant layer, an outer layer, pressure garment bladder, but all of this is all stitched together. It's really traditional in its construction. So it's really thick, and this suit is supposed to be inflated and pressurized with a PSI of 14.7 PSI. All right, because that is what the human body needs to stay in its proper pressure. Okay, or else we would die. So the problem with this, though, is space has no pressure. A matter of fact, space is measured in the negative. The increments that you use to measure a vacuum, because that's what space is, a vacuum, is torr, T-O-R-R. Space is measured in 10 to the -7 torr. So it's not only a nothingness, okay? It's actually a vacuum, so it actually sucks on you. All right, it will pull you apart, okay? Because it's 10 to the -7 torr. All right, so basically you have the balloon. Basically, you're in a balloon, and this. Can you see my cursor moving around? My pointer.
Yes.
Okay. So you see the cloth here. So you got on the inside 14.7 psi. You have on the outside 10 to the -7 torr. Okay. So the pressure inside it doesn't have any pressure to counter it on the outside. So therefore, it's going to keep expanding until it explodes and makes a very gory, bloody mess. All right. So there's no way you can survive this. Okay. That makes space unsurvivable. If you really wanted to make a spacesuit that really worked in this alleged environment called space, this is what you really need right here. Okay. This will protect you from the pressure, from the lack of pressure outside the suit. Now, this is a diving suit, one of many various designs. It's a beautiful piece of engineering. And what this does is it protects the diver from an opposite environment, the undersea environment, the underwater environment. So the lower you go, your pressure increases. Basically, what that means is the weight of the water is pressing down on you. And so you need something like this to protect the diver from the immense pressure that increases as he gets lower and lower in the water. And that's just a simple explanation. So you have here, you see this spacesuit here. Look at the elbows, okay? Because those are the danger spots, all the joints. And you notice the joints are very enlarged because they're designed to, because you have to move, okay? So these are given extra armor, extra mobility. That's why it needs to be that large. So now this is an older diving suit, but it has the same concept. If you notice the little teeny windows that it has here, little tiny little portholes, and the reason why they're so small is because the larger the glass, because back then they didn't really have tempered glass, so the larger the glass visor, the more chance of it crushing under pressure. That's why they have the little teeny little portholes here. This is a really good design. I like it. It's very steampunk, but it's one of my favorites. Now, this one is a beauty. This is a huge, huge baby here. And look at the way the elbows are designed. They're enlarged as usual. But if you notice, it is designed and rated to go at a certain depth, far deeper than you could go if you were just wearing scuba gear, because you would be crushed like an egg. It would just splatter you underwater. So that's why spacesuits don't work. Okay, now let me show you what happens. I'm going to share something else. Let me show you what happens when you have the wrong pressure differential. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to share a video. Let's see, space and yeah. Okay, here's what happens when you, here's what happens when you have the wrong pressure.
This is all about the geometry.
Okay, if you notice that, all right, what happened was they sucked all the pressure out. Now, this is a train car, okay? And this is a tanker. This thing is thick. Within this video, they actually dropped a concrete block on this thing and it bounced off. All right, this thing is pretty awesome. It has the construction of a tank almost, okay? But when they pulled all the pressure out, what happened was it no longer had any pressure. It could not withstand the pressure pressing down on it. And so since all the pressure was taken out of the tank, now the pressure on the outside crushed it. This is what should happen to an astronaut: a bloody, gory, crushing death. And it never happens, okay? So that's what happens when you have the wrong pressure systems against each other. So that's a really good example of that.
It's because they're underwater and they're not that deep.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So submarines are made the same way. Submarines are designed to survive the crushing depths of the sea bottom or deep undersea environment. In the same way, astronauts are supposed to have the same protection, but in the opposite direction, yet they don't. And there have never been any deaths in space, and that is odd. That is very odd. Don't get me wrong, I'm not hoping people die, but I'm saying logically someone should have died at some point. And Gus Grissom's death doesn't count, okay? Because all flat earthers know Gus Grissom was killed. But he died on the surface in a rocket during a test. The Challenger doesn't count because those people are still alive. Check it out, folks; they're still alive.
But that's a good point, right, Michael? I think when you become a flat earther,
yeah,
you start to believe, what's dangerous is you start to believe so many more things, right? Oh my goodness, the Challenger didn't kill people. When that exploded, nobody was in it. And you start to believe these different things, right? Because we have photos, we have this, we have, so much suspicious activity. Everybody's got a twin brother now, that was on there. Or frankly, just people.
It's a prerequisite in NASA. You have to have a twin.
Right. Or people who look exactly the same.
Right. And have the same
name. And carry the same name. Right. That is, I think when, what they're trying to do in that video, if we go back to the CNN video, they're just trying to paint people who believe in conspiracies as somebody who is not somebody who can think logically for themselves, right? They're always chasing something. And look, to be honest, and this is definitely a call, especially to anybody out there. When you are looking into conspiracies, it's so quick and so easy to believe that everything is a great deception, or everybody who wears the color orange because the gematria of orange is 33. Thus, everybody who wears orange is clearly part of, the Illuminati. Right. So, we have all these things, and look, we have orange in that background of that beautiful Joshua Nowicki photo. I'm sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize, that's the sky. I didn't mean to do that, but you have people who would take it to that level. I think when we are, like when it comes to friends, family, these types of things, when we present information, we could either be the guy that ends up in the crazy loony videos, so, here's a great example. We were at the Flat Earth International Conference, and there was a channel called All Gas, No Brakes, and they made some really viral videos. And that All Gas, No Brakes guy only interviewed people who he could get information that they can make fun of. If somebody was wearing a funny hat, or, they just look like, hey, maybe they, would be a funny interview. However they looked, right? Because they're very eccentric or whatever. And I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just saying that's what they did. So at the Flat Earth International 19 conference, that's what they were there. And shout out to Anthony Stover, who got in the video for doing a rap. And it's hysterical, by the way. And of course, Wes Blaze, he got super famous because of that viral video that he did on All Gas, No Brakes. But see, they were just trying to get people who would rap or do that. And I'm not saying they made a fool of themselves or anything. They just tried to do that, is what All Gas, No Brakes did. So, the guy was there, and I saw these two young guys walking around, and they had press passes. And I'm like, Robbie, who are they? And they're like, there's some internet company or something. And so I just went over to him and I started talking to him, and I was like, hey, what do you think of the Flat Earth Conference? Why are you here? And, he started telling me, we have this channel. We're on Instagram. We have a paid subscription. where we do these videos. And so I was like, hey, well, since you're not a flat earther, and you've been interviewing a lot of flat earthers, can I interview you for my channel? And he was like, I don't do interviews. But he literally said to me, he goes, I'll interview, if I can interview you, I'll let you interview me. And so I was like, all right, I'll go first. And I got no internet. So if you remember, Michael, I was walking around with your power pack.
Yeah.
It was giving me power for my phone.
Yeah.
The whole time, so I could shoot those videos, which was so much fun to do. But right when I started to shoot, I got no internet service, like zero. And then he's like, all right, well, let's start interviewing you. And I was like, all right, well, maybe we can come back to this. And I started talking. He started asking me questions. And everything that I was saying, he said, cut. He's like, I can't interview you. And I'm like, why? He's like, you don't fit what I'm trying to do. It's because he didn't interview people that he couldn't get funny sound bits out of.
Yeah.
Because I was actually bringing hey, for even myself, I was bringing an argument to the table that he couldn't come against, and he couldn't make fun of it. And ironically, that is the vast majority of people at the conference. And so he did a video, and I tried to find it. I couldn't find it for the show, but he did a video when he was interviewed. And you remember, this dude interviews like drug conventions, porn conventions. He does all this stuff, and he finds the craziest, wacky people. And he said, well, who were the craziest people? This was the question he got asked. Who was the craziest people you interviewed, or the most dangerous? And he said it was the flat earthers.
What?
And he goes, and this is what he said. He literally said it like this. He goes, it wasn't the people who I thought were crazy. It was the people who actually believed that the earth was flat and had a real sound argument, because they were the most dangerous people there, because they could actually make you think that you believe it. Like they're scary. They're dangerous, because they believe something so idiotic and so stupid that's been unproven. But these guys who can articulate this wild conspiracy are the most dangerous people. And I'm going, hey, I'm glad I didn't interview this guy. But hey, that's what we're dealing with,
Yeah.
And at least he was honest and saying, I can't use you. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. Maybe.
Yeah, I kind of take it as a compliment.
Right.
I mean, we're dangerous to organizations and institutions that have been lying to children for decades. Yeah. So I kind of take that as a compliment.
Yeah. And so let's go ahead and recap. We're already at 12 o'clock. And so, these were some of the things that we actually believe. Yeah. Right. We didn't even talk about corpuscular rays. We didn't go into a lot of things that we could get into. There are so much stuff that that we've already done. We're going to talk about that stuff. It's because we're in a new season, right? We hadn't done a show for almost a year. So, we're going to redo that. Hopefully we get some new audience to come in and see some of the stuff that you've done in the past. But what I want to do is end on this, is what we actually believe. And, I'm going to spend a little time setting this up, and then I'm going to let you speak, is that we are different than flat earthers. The basis of what we believe is the word of Yahweh, the word of God, his inspired word, and what it tells us. This is why it's so dangerous to them, because this is spiritual, right? You got CNN, you got politicians, you got people, you got all these different people out there that are anti-God. They live anti-Christ lifestyles. They They believe that the Bible is a farce. They believe in evolution. They believe in all these different things. What we believe is the Bible is the basis for everything that we do in our lives.
Mhm.
Thus, this topic is absolutely no different. So we've drawn a line in the sand. We did that on our last episode. There are flat earthers, and then there are biblical cosmologists. And we will talk about flat earth, but it's only on the basis because we are backing up the Bible from the very beginning. Michael, expound on this of what we actually believe and why.
What we actually believe is the empirical evidence that is brought to bear from scripture and just normal life, normal observation of the world that was created by Yahweh. And we believe those proofs because we live them every day. So what's the whole point of all this? Why even bother? Because first of all, truth matters. All right. We've been lied to for so long. Once we have found the truth, then we embrace that truth. So that's first. Second, it changes everything, the way you see the world, the way you react to the world, and also it's a lie detector because it opens up your eyes so you are no longer lied to, not only with enclosed cosmology, which is physically the biggest lie in the world, ideologically and physically, but it also opens your eyes to a lot of other deceptions out there. That's why you'll see you won't meet a flat earther that believes that 9/11 was the way that the media put the narrative out there. No flat earther is going to believe that. There's the moon landing and stuff like that, evolution. It doesn't work, okay? Because now we see the truth for what it really is. So it changes everything. It crushes your paradigm and it opens your eyes to many other truths. And the truth will set you free, and it truly does. Is this a religion? No, it is not a religion, okay? It is simply a way to see the world for what it truly is. Truth. That's it. It's just that simple. It's not complicated. It's just truth. And once you have truth, it changes everything. So that's what we believe. We believe in the empirical evidence that we live and read in scripture.
Yeah, and I'll simply put it like this as a closing, is that let's look at Genesis 1:1. Simple. You know, if a secularist, if a Christian, creation ministries, they want to start to just pinpoint what we believe, we're going to start with the first verse in the scriptures.
Yep.
The very first word of the living Torah, right? Here is the Torah that tells us the very first part that we actually need to know. And it's not heliocentrism. There is no such thing as heliocentrism within the scriptures. And it tells us in Genesis 1:1 that in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. And then on day 4, it tells us it creates the sun.
Yep.
You got creation ministries, you got Christians, you got secularists, okay, and rightfully so. If you're a secularist and you want to put yourself against the Word of God, then you've got your heliocentric religion. We got our belief system. We have our religion. It is the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
You have yours. It is the third version of Copernicus model. That's what you have. You have a heliocentric model given to you on part 3 on his deathbed of Copernicus as your basis, which its roots come from, as I've proven in this, is the roots come from the Kabbalah and the Zohar.
Yep.
This is the roots of heliocentrum, of years of it, of it, of getting to that Copernican model, who was a devout helio sun worshiper.
But even scientists admit this. They admit that modern science comes from the Kabbalah.
Absolutely. And so you've got that. Now understand what we believe. Okay? We believe that in the beginning, the earth was formed first. So Christians, that's where you start.
Yep.
You start there. You start, hey, it was formed first. Genesis 2:1-2, Genesis 1:3, Genesis 1:4, all the way until you get day 4, that tells us this is when the sun was formed. This is when the sun, the moon, and stars were created.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you need to start. That's the first place you need to start. And you need to say, I don't know what I believe on this topic, and at least be honest with yourself. You don't know. If you haven't picked a side, or if you have picked a side and the Bible's not the basis for what you believe, then you need to start again with the Bible. If you're a Christian and you're not going to start there, it's time to look in the mirror. It's not time to look at us and pinpoint what we believe and how wrong it is. Let the Word of God, let His Torah from the beginning tell us what the truth is. And that's it. Simply, that's when you need to start. So what do we believe? We believe that the Word of God is true. Empirical evidence proves that. So CNN lied. They told a bunch of lies about flat earthers, because even the flat earthers who deny the Bible, they don't believe any of that stuff.
No, they do not.
And so, what our hopes is for the future of this show is to continue to dig deeper, do more experiments. Michael's got a lot of things working as we're getting closer to the springtime. A lot of things that we're going to be, hopefully doing a lot more of what he's already done, and really showing the purpose why, and really giving people that hope, because there's an answer for everything in the Word of God. And so you can trust it, you can believe it, you can, you can give your life to Him. And that's what it is all about. It's about trusting in that the Messiah who has come, in that finished work that He has done for us. And it's time to believe His word. And that's one thing that we talked about in our music show, is that there's Christians today, because of the Christian progressive movement within Christianity and the music scene. We're seeing that they're saying, oh, you can believe in Jesus, but just don't believe in the Word of God. And
Wow.
You got whole movements of that, not that that's new, but it's been happening for a long time. And right now, what we're telling, if you trust His word, start reading the word from the beginning. And I'm going to simply, put it out there. Our good friend Chad Taylor, he wrote a book, and it's called Earth. Earth, Where Are We? The Earth According to the Bible. And if you don't have that book in your home, and if you haven't decided where you stand on this topic, or if you have and you haven't had anything to share with your children, this is the book that you can absolutely get on Amazon. Look it up. And if you didn't catch that, that was Earth According to the Bible. I just botched it again. It's getting late. It is Where Are We? Earth According to the Bible. And it is by Chad Taylor. Many of you might remember him. Is an absolutely fabulous book.
Excellent reference book. Excellent.
Start there. I don't care if you're a Globe believer or that. Just learn what the Bible has to say. If you're looking to debunk us, know what the Bible has to say on this, and prove your model based on that. And if you can read through those verses and come up with a spinning ball heliocentric model that has absolutely no place within Scripture, if you come up with that and He reveals it to you, reveal it to us. Share with that. We're going to show you that. And guess what we're not going to do? We're not going to deflect and say, well, what about this? And what about that? Oh, let me show you this. We're going to hear you out. And we ask if you do the same thing. So hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. Michael, I don't know if you have any last words or closing, but I know you're getting tired. I see those eyes.
No, because I'm looking here instead of up here.
Okay, if you're in the chat room and think Michael fell asleep to me talking, give a thumbs up.
I'm not asleep.
he was just resting, mentally resting.
Yeah, right.
So Michael, I don't know if you have any last words, and we'll go ahead and end.
No, I mean, for all you Christians out there, test all things. Study to show yourself approved. Be a good Berean, because if you don't, our people die for lack of knowledge. Or one of the verses says our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Don't believe everything you hear simply because that's what you've been told all your life, or because the person has degrees, or they're famous, or whatever. Test all things. Emphasis on all. Okay, now if you do that via scripture, okay, and keep your eyes open and pay attention to empirical evidence, everything will change.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. Take on the World TV has some great shows coming up. Saturday, we'll have most likely an episode from Draw Nigh to the Creator series with Ian Fiducia. And then we have the Enclosed Cosmology Fellowship Saturday evening as well. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And then we are back. I'm back with a brand new show of Sound Off coming up Tuesday, where we're going to be taking a journey through the 1970s. So it's going to be so much fun. And we got the full gang on that one. So tune into that, and we will see you guys really soon.
See you guys soon.